Asuka Langley Soryu. Or Asuka Langley Shikinami, or whatever the fuck stupid name they gave her in the rebuild. Um, so Asuka, I'm doing her because someone complained I only did characters I hated, and someone also asked that I do other franchises than Game of Thrones, so I posted my Shinji video, so I'm doing Asuka next. So I like Asuka. She has many flaws and a lot of things I dislike, but overall I think she's a great character, and I like her. I like most of the Evangelion characters, actually. Probably why it's like my favorite anime series. So Asuka. What can one say about Asuka? She is, to my in my view, kind of a deconstruction of a Mary Sue. Not only is she a deconstruction of a Mary Sue, but she's kind of, in my thinking at least, kind of a criticism on the whole Ubermensch thing. But that's kind of my philosophy, and I will have to do a video on that, and how that relates to Valer Margalis and Valer Doharis, or however you pronounce Valerian. But I digress. So Asuka is a Mary Sue. There's no question about it. She is a self-referential, self-aware deconstruction of Mary Sue's, but at her core she kind of is. I mean, she's absurdly gorgeous, absurdly well built for a 14-year-old. She has red hair, redhead master race. She has gorgeous blue eyes. She's abnormally strong, athletic, etc. She knows like kung fu and karate and all this other stuff. She has a genius level IQ. She graduated college at the age of like 13 or whatever. She had perfect grades. She plays violin. She was trained from birth, like to be an elite super warrior, like super soldier. She's the only. She is the best EVA pilot for, well, in terms of sync ratio, for about half the series, etc. She has the vague, angsty past. She's the love interest of the main character. There's a huge list of things that make her a massive Sue. But ultimately, she's a deconstruction of it. Now, I'm not saying that the creators of Evangelion, Anno and the like, sat down and knew what a Mary Sue is, but she very clearly falls into the archetype that Mary Sue is trying to encapsulate. She has all these things about her, but what makes her interesting as a character is, despite having all those things, she's a fundamentally broken person. Now, why is that? Asuka is a fundamentally broken person because she lacks anything resembling a core. She lacks anything resembling a sense of self. And I think it's kind of a satire of, or a deconstruction of Mary Sue's, because Mary Sue's ultimately are kind of boring because they lack anything, well, resembling a core, resembling a sense of self independent of all the, like, the super special awesome traits they're given. Like, a lot of them are just, they don't really have a personality. In fact, to be a Mary Sue, you have to not have a personality, not have flaws, not have goals. You just have to be kind of bland, generic, and perfect. And Asuka is kind of generic and perfect on the surface level, but deep down, the complete lack of identity and the complete lack of being a person that being a Mary Sue has makes her depressed, empty, etc. Asuka as a character doesn't believe in anything other than herself. And that is why she is so weak, and that's why she caves where Shinji doesn't. Asuka has confidence in abundance. She has confidence, she has pride, she has all these things, but she has nothing greater to fight for. Shinji, despite all his flaws, despite all his weakness, all of his difficulties, has a lot of things to fight for, a lot of things to believe in. Shinji is capable of forming real relationships with other people. He's shy and lacks confidence to really exploit them to their full potential, but at his core, he can learn to care about people. he does fight to some extent for humanity. So regardless of how he feels or his pride or his mental state, he continues to fight. That's why he's the only pilot left. Because his ability to pilot and his motivation for piloting has nothing to do with being the best. It has nothing to do with his other abilities. It's based on, to some extent, even in a very kind of cowardly, well, not, I don't really consider Shinji a coward, but a very um, hesitant way, kind of a belief in saving people. Asuka only pilots to show that she's the best. And when she ceases to be the best, there's no other reason for her to continue living, which is why she attempts to kill herself. Because she's defined entirely by a belief in herself and her traits as a Sue. And that is kind of, if you look at fan fiction, generally speaking, to become a full person, she has to learn to care about Shinji or anything other than herself. To learn to love someone else, or even to just, if she were to have a minimal belief in an ideal, be it in compassion to others, perhaps in religion, perhaps in just that humanity has a right to exist, and that saving humanity is a good thing, then I don't think she would have had her breakdown, and I don't think she would be so mean to people. But at her core, Asuka is someone who's been let down by the world, who's been let down and failed by everyone around her. Whereas Shinji took his anger and turned it inward and lost confidence in himself, Shinji still fundamentally believes in the world. And even though that makes him seem less strong, it makes him better able to endure the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as Shakespeare would say. Asuka took the anger and shoved it out at the world and hates everything but herself. And at her core, she still hates herself, because you can't hate everything else and not hate yourself. But she blames everything else for her problems, which is to some degree true, but she's not willing to do anything that would fix her problems, that would make her a better person, and a more complete person. So you can really see this in Asuka. Everything about her is predicated on exploiting her Sue-like characteristics and making sure she's the best. She has to be the prettiest, she has to be the best dressed, she has to be the center of attention, she has to be the best EVA pilot, because there's nothing else within her. There's no inner strength, there's no inner fire. The Saints were able to endure horrific humiliation, pain, and eventual death, oftentimes smiles on their faces, because they had that inner core faith in something other than themselves. Asuka is an Übermensch. I don't mean that by being German, I mean that in the Nietzschean sense. She is a superior person. She is the natural ruling class. Nature has given her gifts that other people can only look on with envy. And yet, it doesn't make her happy, because ultimately people need more than that to be complete people. People inherently need something more than themselves, because eventually everybody dies. Eventually your talents and gifts will fade away. And yes, you should take pride in them, but if you have nothing else, then as soon as they vanish, then there's nothing left for you, and you might as well be dead, which is the path Asuka takes. So, why does Asuka love Shinji? Or why does she have feelings for him? And I think this is a core aspect of her character, and to some degree what destroys her. Asuka, I believe, sees in Shinji the other half of her soul. And I really do see, and I ship Asuka and Shinji very hard, because I do see them as the other half of each other's souls. Shinji has an inner core. Shinji has beliefs, even if they're hesitant, unrefined, and very lacking in confidence or oomph. He does fundamentally want to help other people and serve other people. And that's what keeps him strong, and that's what keeps him fighting. Asuka has belief in herself, something Shinji lacks, but no higher purpose or no kind of greater nature. And together the two would complete each other. Asuka needs someone to love her, and Shinji needs someone to love. Shinji needs someone to pour his unrequited affections into, someone who can understand him, someone who he can serve, because that's the nature of Shinji, is that he wants to serve others. And Asuka needs someone who can love her and can provide an external positive influence on her, who can free her from the confines of her mind and become a full person. And it's sad that it didn't work out between them. Perhaps it worked out in the end, depending on the canon. The manga pretty directly ships them together and says that they will wind up together. End to Evangelion implies that they wind up together. The TV show doesn't really take a position on it, but I like to think they wind up together. Actually, the TV ending is my favorite one. Maybe I'll do something on that. And in the rebuilds are just ugh. I know a lot of people like them. I'll have to do a video on that. So those are kind of my thoughts on Asuka Langley Soryu. She is an Ubermensch. She is the supreme being given flesh, or I guess the supreme man given flesh. She possesses all the gifts that nature can give her, and yet she is not happy with them. It does not bring her fulfillment. It does not bring her the things she needs to be a full person. For that she would need Shinji, but as they did not get together in the TV show, ultimately Shinji proved to be more robust, and that his ability to feel compassion for others, an ability to help out humanity and have some belief in it, and to believe in something other than himself is what sustains him, where Asuka fails and ultimately gives up as soon as her ability as a Sue are questioned. And that's to some extent why she hates Rei so much, because Rei is kind of like her, but even more perfect than her in a lot of ways. Rei is also beautiful. Rei is also skilled. Rei appears to have none of... Rei, in a sense, has absolute confidence because she doesn't even feel fear. And while Asuka hates Rei because she's a doll, and she hates dolls for traumatic childhood, she also hates Rei because she sees in Rei a rival that she can't hope to compete against. Because Rei is even more of a Sue in a lot of ways. Even more embodies the perfection that Asuka's self-esteem and sense of image depends upon. So that's my character profile of Asuka. I can always do more. I can talk about some other stuff if you'd like. One of my favorite characters in anime. I really like her, and I really like Shinji, and I really like the two of them together. I'll do one on Rei soon. This is Argent Templar. God bless.